My aunt stole my inheritance and then asked me to be her caregiver. My name is Megan. I'm 28, and my aunt stole my inheritance before I was old enough to understand what inheritance even meant. Then had the nerve to ask me to be her full-time caregiver. When I was 12, my parents died in a car accident. One minute, we were arguing about what movie to watch. The next, I was sitting in a hospital hallway staring at a vending machine being told they weren't coming back. I had no siblings, no grandparents. The only blood family left was my dad's older sister, Linda. She swooped in immediately, holding my hand at the funeral, crying louder than anyone, telling everyone she was going to take care of her baby girl now. I moved into her house, into a guest room that still smelled like mothballs, and tried to build a life from the rubble. Adults kept whispering about the estate, the life insurance, the house sale. I heard numbers, but they meant nothing to me. What I was told very clearly was this. My parents had left everything to me. Their savings, the insurance payout, the proceeds of the house. The lawyer said it would be held in a trust until I turned 18 and that Aunt Linda was named as my guardian and the trustee. She'll make sure it's used for Megan's needs, he said, looking her in the eye. She squeezed my shoulder and said, "Of course, I'd never let her go without." For the next few years, anytime money came up, Linda would say, "You don't worry about that, honey. Your parents took care of you." We weren't living large, but we weren't struggling either. I shared a bathroom with her, wore mostly hand-me-downs, went to public school. When I asked once at 16 if that college money the lawyer talked about was still there, she got offended. "Do you think I'm stealing from you?" she snapped. I backed off, ashamed for even asking. I trusted her. She was all I had left. When I turned 18, I expected some kind of meeting. A call from the lawyer, a stack of papers, something. Instead, on my birthday, Linda handed me an envelope with a $100 bill and said, "You're an adult now. Time to start pulling your weight." When I brought up the trust, she went very quiet, then said, "Oh, that." There wasn't as much as people made it sound. Most of it went to raising you. Food, clothes, school, this roof over your head. Kids are expensive, Megan. I remember sitting at her kitchen table with the ugly floral tablecloth, feeling like the room was tilting. "All of it?" I asked. "There's nothing left?" She launched into this monologue about how I had no idea how much bills cost, how selfish it was to expect a big payday just because my parents died, how she'd sacrificed her best years to raise me and never asked for anything in return. She made it sound like I was scamming her by even asking. We argued. I cried. She slammed cabinet doors and shouted that if I didn't like it, I could go find somewhere else to live. I did what traumatized kids often do. I shut up and survived. I got a scholarship to a state college, worked 2 part-time jobs, and moved out at 19. We stayed in touch, but it was polite. Holiday calls, occasional texts. Anytime money or my parents came up, she shut it down. Years later, when I was 24 and filing FAFSA, I finally requested copies of the old court documents myself. The trust had held just under $300,000 between the insurance and house sale. By the time I turned 18, it was gone. Every withdrawal had been signed by Linda. There were vague notes like household expenses, care, maintenance, no audits, no questions. Legally, it was over. Technically, she hadn't done anything wrong on paper. Morally, I realized my aunt had spent my future and then told me I should be grateful. I pulled back after that. I didn't confront her. I didn't have the emotional energy or the money for a lawyer. I just stopped trying so hard. I focused on finishing school, getting a job, building something from scratch with no head start. We still spoke on birthdays. Mother's Day, she insisted I treat her like a mother. Christmas. Our conversations were shallow and slightly sour, like coffee left out too long. Then last year, things changed. She called me out of the blue, voice shaky. "I've been in the hospital," she said. "It's my heart. The doctors say I shouldn't live alone anymore." I felt a pang of guilt, despite everything. She went on. She couldn't drive. She needed help with medication, cooking, cleaning. Her only child, my cousin, lived abroad and couldn't just drop everything, as she put it. "You're all I have," she said. "You're my girl." At first, I assumed she was asking me to visit more. Then she said the actual words, "I was thinking you could move in, or I could move in with you, just for a while, help me with day-to-day stuff. I raised you, now it's your turn to take care of me." My brain short-circuited. I pictured 12-year-old me in her guest room, crying into a pillow that smelled like laundry detergent and cheap perfume. 18-year-old me realizing the money that was supposed to pay for college, a car, a tiny safety net had vanished into expenses. I also pictured 28-year-old me in my small one-bedroom apartment working full-time plus a side gig to pay off loans that my inheritance should have covered, finally having a tiny bit of peace. "I can't be a full-time caregiver," I said carefully. "I work. I barely have space for myself." She sighed dramatically. God, your generation is so selfish. I did everything for you. The guilt machine turned on full force. She brought up rides to school, packed lunches. The one time she bought me a prom dress on sale, she left out the screaming, the silent treatment, the missing money. If I hadn't taken you in, you'd be in foster care, she said. You owe me. I wish I could say I calmly, eloquently defended myself, but what actually happened is that I started shaking and blurted out everything at once. I told her I'd seen the trust documents, that I knew exactly how much money there had been and how quickly she drained it, that I'd spent years working double shifts and taking on debt because the college fund everyone told me existed had been used to upgrade her car and remodel her kitchen. She went silent, then furious. You ungrateful brat, she snapped. Do you have any idea what it cost me to raise you? I said, yeah, about $300,000 apparently. She called it compensation, said she deserved something for putting her life on hold, said my parents would have wanted her to be comfortable because she stepped up when no one else did. I told her that whatever she felt she was owed, she'd already taken, that I was not going to give up my job, my tiny rented apartment, my mental health to be her. Unpaid nurse on top of it. I offered alternatives. I'd help her research assisted living, hire in-home care, call social services, help her apply for benefits, visit when I could. But I would not move in, and she would not move in with me. She called me heartless. Told the extended family I'd abandoned her. Now I get messages from relatives who barely know me. She loved you like a daughter. How can you do this? None of them know about the inheritance. None of them were there when 18-year-old me realized my parents' last gift had been turned into a new bathroom and years of cable bills. Could I take her in? Maybe. Physically, it might be possible. Emotionally, it would feel like handing my life back to the person who already spent it once. So here I am, helping her fill out paperwork over the phone, occasionally driving her to appointments, but keeping my door and my lease closed. Everyone keeps asking if I regret that choice. Honestly, I feel guilty sometimes. Then I picture my parents signing those papers, thinking their money would cushion my future, not fuel Linda's shopping trips, and I think maybe the real question is, how many times does someone get to cash in on family obligation before you're allowed to say, you've taken enough from me, I'm not giving you the rest of my life too?